Drawing and shading 3D forms. So first we need to look at the difference between a shape versus a form. A shape is two-dimensional area. It has a recognizable boundary. We say a shape has length and width, okay? A form is a three-dimensional shape. So not only does it have length and width, it also has depth, okay? So it goes back in space. So that's why it has 3 dimensions. So an example of a shape would be a square, while an example of a form would be a cube. So there's real form versus representational form. Real forms have height, width, and depth. So real forms are all around you: your table, your chairs, other students. Sculpture, jewelry, and ceramics are also three-dimensional forms. This is an example of a three-dimensional sculpture on a large scale. You might recognize it from Chicago, which people commonly refer to it as the bean sculpture. Okay, here we have representational forms. So a representational form is something that is two-dimensional, but it represents or gives the illusion of being three-dimensional. So we're going to be creating the illusion of 3 dimensions in our two-dimensional drawings. So on the left here, you see two-dimensional shapes, and we're going to turn those into three-dimensional representational forms. Okay, one of the things we have to think about as we start to shade is our light source. So in this image, you can see the sun is up in the top right, or the light is coming from the top right. The part of the object that is closest to the light, that is where you will see the lightest values. So that's what we call the highlight, okay, because the light is hitting this part of the object most intensely since it's closest. As we look further away on our object, our value tends to get a little bit darker. So our medium values, we refer to those as the midtone, right? Then on the back side, we have what's called the core shadow, or I refer to it as the shadow. Sometimes we even catch a reflection on the back of the object, which is lighter, again, a very light value there. And then last but not least, we have the cast shadow. So that's where the object is preventing the light from reaching the surface it's sitting on. So the object itself is casting a shadow or making a darkened version shape of that object onto the table or the surface. So some things to think about. How can shading help an object look more three-dimensional? Well, by changing our values, we can represent what we're seeing on our actual object as far as how the light is striking it. How many light sources are there in the space that you are working in? If you have one distinct light source, it makes it easier to shade in the values that you see. But in our classroom, when we have all the lights on, we have multiple light sources, right? Because we have several lights up above us. So what can I do to help create one main light source for better contrast? Well, I could turn on a lamp and turn off all the other lights in my room, and that would help me to clearly see my light source. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I want you to watch and see how the values change as I move my light source. So I've set a sphere on a piece of white paper, and I have a lamp that I'm going to move. I want you to watch and see how the value changes. So there's the lamp. It's starting on the right. Shadow is cast to the left. Now the lamp's overhead. Shadow's right underneath. Now the lamp's to the left side. Notice that the shadow is stretching to the right. When the lamp is behind the object, we see most of the darker values on the front of the object. When the lamp goes further away, it can make our shadow shorter. When our lamp gets closer to the object, it can extend the shadow. So it all depends on placement of the light in relation to the object. Okay, that changes how we see our values on our form. Oops. Okay, so now it's time to practice what we have been talking about. You are going to watch a video that will walk you through how to draw a circle and then through shading, transform it into a sphere, okay? So make sure to watch the next video, and I would go ahead and complete the assignment right along with the video. So this will be the video that you are looking for.